Hello everyone. This is the 25th part of the story, I'm Voldemort. Chapter 168, Conjuration. It didn't take Tom more than an extra day to master operating the ball perfectly. He was the first in his class to do so and gained a good chunk of points for his house, but he doesn't really care about that. Good work, Mr. Riddle. As expected from someone with your capabilities, the teacher said happily. Thanks, should I start working on another exercise, or is that it? Tom asks, hoping for another exercise as he's nervous about operating himself. No, the next step is normal apparition. She shook her head, crushing Tom's hopes. Since you're so far ahead of everyone else though, why don't you practice with the ball for the rest of the day? Once you're able to apparate the ball 100 by 100 times without messing up a single time, you don't have to show up to class anymore until everyone else can do the same. That sounds good. How long do you estimate it would take everyone else to catch up? Tom asks. A few weeks at least. Maybe a couple of months if we have some stragglers. She explains. Tom was very happy with this outcome. What student wouldn't be joyful at not having to show up to class? Not to mention the fact that Tom is one of the busiest people in Hogwarts. He practically runs Slytherin House like a well-oiled machine, trains with the Slytherins every morning, and then he trains almost every student in the self-defense club. After worrying about all of that, he has to manage his followers outside of Hogwarts through the Mark's communication function. All of this, combined with his own training in classes, makes Tom the single most busy person in Hogwarts. Even the headmaster and professors aren't nearly as busy as Tom is, so having an opening in his schedule is a big deal to him. By the end of the class, Tom was able to do as she said and perfectly apparate the ball 100 by 100 times without any blunders. None of the students were the least bit surprised by Tom's performance. In fact, they would be surprised if he didn't finish the exercise as fast as he did. Since he finished as the teacher said, Tom bid his classmates farewell and went on his way, not to return until the very last student masters the exercise. With his newfound free time, Tom decided to work on something that he's recently started learning in Transmigration class. Conjuration. Conjuration is an advanced form and type of transfiguration, some of the most complex magic taught at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, which is why Tom was so interested in teaching transfiguration after graduating. Conjurations are distinguished from the other branches of transfiguration by their ability to transfigure the desired object from thin air, while its opposite, vanishment, causes desired objects to disappear from existence. Conjuration is more than difficult compared to transformation, which is the art of altering the physical features of an object, and vanishment, which is only taught to students at the NEWT level. The only form of transfiguration that exceeded conjuration in difficulty was human transfiguration, which is illegal and not taught at Hogwarts. Conjuration also has some overlap with charms and some dark charms, such as the water-making spell and the floating eyes curse. Many things can go wrong when attempting to conjure something from nothing, especially in the case of living creatures. If conjuration is not performed exactly right, or if the caster is simply messing around with conjuring spells, mistakes such as frog-rabbit hybrids can occur. The hybrids in question can be explainable by the magical law principle of artificianimate quasi-dominance, which pretty much explains why and how many things could go wrong during conjugation, such as severed heads, indeterminate stumps, and of course mutant animal hybrids. At the start of the 7th year, Tom's class started learning the intricacies of conjuration. Due to the lackluster teaching skills of this year's transfiguration professor, no one in the class has made much progress in learning it though. Since he can't rely on his own professor, Tom decided to spend his new free time getting conjuration down before the NEWTs arrive. Everyone in the class is most likely going to do the same, or else they will end up failing their transfiguration NEWTs. There's no doubt in Tom's mind that the majority of students this year will not do very well on their Transmigration exams. It's a good thing that they can retake them again next year, but many won't have the time and money to spend hiring a tutor and studying after leaving Hogwarts at the end of their 7th year. On the next day, during the time that would usually be spent in apparition class, Tom invited Druella over to the Auror. Druella learned apparition from her parents, so she doesn't have to attend that class. She took the exam and received her license before school started this year. Together they found books on conjuration and had a small reading party to themselves. Before tackling any sort of magic, no matter how great or menial, it's best to learn as much about it as possible. Their schedule continued like this for a week, as they familiarized themselves with the ins and outs of conjuration. Once they memorized every book they can pertaining to conjuration available in the r.o.r, they could finally start putting everything they've read into action. All right, Drew. Let's start small for our first try, shall we? Conjuring a toothpick should be a good start. Tom says as Druella draws her wand with a determined look on her face. Let's do it. I'm tired of reading already. Druella replies. Same. The first to conjure a normal-looking toothpick can ask the winner for one favor. Do we have a deal? Tom challenges confidently. Deal. Chapter 169, Cheater. They began as both Tom and Druella started competing to be the one to conjure a toothpick before the other. The winner would then gain the right to ask a favor from the loser. Druella already had a favor in mind and started waving her wand with a determined spark in her eyes. Tom hasn't introduced her to his adoptive mother yet. She's been waiting for him to do so, but he's been putting it off for some reason. She plans to use her favor to get a meeting with his mother once and for all. On the other hand, Tom is the one to make up this bet, yet he has no idea what he's going to ask for. I'll just save the favor until I can think of something. Tom thought as he started wandlessly trying to conjure a toothpick. By the time their little free period ended, neither could conjure a perfect toothpick, which goes to show just how hard it is to learn conjuration. Although both of them haven't done it yet, Tom has gotten the closest to a toothpick out of the two. His looks like a thin pointy wooden popsicle stick, while Druella's looked like a pointy drumstick. It seems that our time is up. We'll have to make our way to class. Tom says, grabbing his belongings and leaving the Auror with Druella at his side. Oh, I forgot something. Why don't you go on ahead, and I'll meet you again in class? She says, walking off in the opposite direction without giving Tom a chance to reply. Shrugging his shoulders, Tom went to class and waited for her. Throughout the entire class, he kept glancing at the door, waiting for his girlfriend to finally show up. When the class ended, Tom had a bad feeling that something may have happened, so he went back to the Auror to look for Druella. As soon as he stepped into the Auror, Tom laid eyes on Druella sitting on the floor conjuring a perfect toothpick. His jaw dropped as he knew at that moment that he's just been played. She skipped class just to win the bet and get a favor from him. A bright smile forms on Druella's face as she picks up the toothpick and sees that it's perfect. She won. Cheater! Tom exclaims, causing Druella to jump and drop the toothpick. Looking to the door, Druella sees Tom standing there with a disgruntled look on his face. Hey, I didn't cheat at all. There were never any rules in the first place. Take your loss like a man and get ready to fulfill my favor. Druella says haughtily. Tom just looked at his girlfriend who's acting like this and decided to just let it go. She's right, they never came up with any rules. The bet was simply whoever conjured a perfect toothpick first wins, and she was the first to do so. Fine, you win. Tom says, taking a deep breath to calm his disgruntled mind. What do you want for your favor? I want to meet your mother. The adoptive one, not the dead one. Although, I wouldn't mind meeting her at a later date as well. Druella voices what she wants. Tom was truly surprised by her choice. He thought she would ask for something like a vacation or to learn one of his mystic arts powers, like the sling ring portals or the eldritch weapons. He didn't think she wanted to meet the Ancient One so badly. This worked just fine though. His mother has been bugging him to meet Druella for a while now. They are engaged, so it's weird that she hasn't met his mother at this point. Alright, meet me here after dinner tonight and we'll go to Camartage together. Tom agrees easily. Wait, I need to get ready and find something to wear. Not to mention my makeup. These things take time to prepare. Druella frantically starts pacing around the room. Tom smiles evilly in Druella's direction as he found his way to get back at her. I'm afraid your favor was merely to meet my mother without a specified time. It's such a shame that you didn't word your wish correctly, Tom taunts her teasingly. Druella stops her pacing and stares over at Tom menacingly. She knew he was annoyed because of losing and was only using this as a way to get back at her. Fine. Tell our professors that I have a bad headache and won't be attending any classes for the rest of the day. Druella says as she hurries out the door to her dorm room in order to get herself ready for tonight. Hee, that's what you get for cheating. Tom cackles evilly to himself and leaves the room to get to his next class. Later that night after dinner, Tom and Druella met in the Auror as planned. Are you sure you're ready for this? Tom asks as they step inside. Yes, why wouldn't I be? Druella replies with a challenging eyebrow raised. She's dressed perfectly in formal wizarding robes, and her makeup looks as though a professional worked their magic on her. Well, my mother can be a bit intimidating after all. I think it's the bald head, but that's just my opinion. Tom answers with a shrug. Druella has heard about his mother before. She knows that his mother is a sorceress that teaches a different type of magic than theirs. That's why Tom can open portals and all of the other weird powers he has. That doesn't matter now. We're engaged, so I need to meet your mother. What kind of fiancé would I be if I've never met her? Are we going to have our first meeting during the wedding? Druella reasoned. All right, here we go. Tom says and opens a portal to Camartage. Do your best. Chapter 170, Meeting the In-Law. As Tom and Druella stepped through the portal, they appeared in Tom's bedroom at Camartage. Where are we? Druella asks as she looks around curiously. This is my bedroom. Welcome to Camartage. Tom says excitedly with open arms. Looking around his room, Druella couldn't help but feel let down. She thought Camartage would be more grand and Eastern, but Tom's room looks like an ordinary Western bedroom. I thought you said Camartage was in China. She asks Tom. Picking up on her thoughts, Tom pulls her over to the window and opens the curtains. Outside she could see Chinese-style architecture as far as the eye could see. A few of the courtyards separating the buildings were packed with robed students practicing the types of magic Druella has only ever seen used by Tom before. An excited smile appears on Druella's face as she feels as though she's witnessing a world hidden from everyone else. Is this how Muggleborns feel when they learn of our world? She asks herself. Is the view better than my boring old bedroom? Tom asks teasingly. Yes, it is. Druella answered honestly as she gazed off into the distance. Come on. You'll have enough time to take in the view later on. We shouldn't take too long or else we'll be late for the meeting with the all-powerful Ancient One. Tom says jokingly, pulling Druella from the window and out the bedroom door. Wait, stop pulling me. You're going to mess up my clothes. She yanks away from him and fixes her robes. She would have worn her Muggle clothes as Druella knows that Tom likes that, but from what he's told her, his mother wears robes as well. Wanting to dress to impress, Drusilla went with robes this time. All right, but hurry up. I'm sure you don't want to be late on your first meeting after all. Tom says as he waits for her to make herself presentable once again. As they walked through the halls of Camartage together, Drusilla noticed that every person they passed would treat Tom as if he were royalty, bowing and paying their respects. It happened with anyone, no matter what color robe they wore. Why do they keep bowing to you? Are you like a prince here or something? Drusilla asks as they walk the halls. No, that started happening when everyone found out about the Ancient One adopting me. Tom reveals, as another set of robe-wearing masters paid their respects. My mother is a very well-respected leader. Because she took me as her personal disciple and then adopted me, I have a certain amount of power here. Many also think that I'll be the next Sorcerer Supreme when the Ancient One steps down. That's amazing, so you would take your mother's position then? Drusilla asks excitedly. Yes, but I doubt that is going to happen. Tom shakes his head as he remembers Dr. Strange. Why not? Drusilla asks, wondering why Tom thinks his mother wouldn't choose him. Well, remember when I told you about the Infinity Stones? Tom asks. Yeah, you have the space. She replies, but Tom covers her mouth. Don't talk about that where others could be listening. I don't need someone hearing about it and telling their friends. Sooner or later I'll have wannabe evil sorcerers at my doorstep looking to steal from me. Tom says and Drusilla nods, so he removes his hand from her mouth. Sorry about that. Drusilla says, genuinely apologetic for her slip-up. No problem. As I was saying, my mother has the Time Stone, which is pretty much an open secret here in Camartage. She uses it to look into the future, and I'm sure she's seen her successor already. Tom explains. Why do you not think that person could be you? Drusilla asks. It's just a feeling I have. Tom says mysteriously as they appear at a large double door. Are you ready? Drusilla stares into the wooden doors, nervous to be meeting the person behind them. She's not only meeting with Tom's mother but the leader of a secret group of magic users that even the wizarding world knows nothing about. Taking a deep breath, Drusilla turns to Tom and nods her head with a determined look on her face. Yeah, let's do this. She says, resolved to make a good impression. Hearing her answer, Tom smiles at her reassuringly and knocks on the door. Knock knock. Come in. A muffled voice could be heard from behind the door, inviting them inside. At the sound of the voice, Drusilla starts to get visibly tense. Seeing this, Tom takes the lead and grasps her hand. You got this. Don't worry so much. Tom says and opens the door with his other hand. Walking into the room hand in hand, Tom and Drusilla see a robed bald woman waiting for them with a cup of tea in hand. Finally, my son decides to bring his fiancée to meet her mother-in-law? It's not like this should have happened years ago, right? The Ancient One says sarcastically as she eyes Drusilla up and down. This isn't the first time she's seen Drusilla. Although Tom doesn't know it, she did a quick background check on this girl and her family when she started dating her son. The Ancient One sent a few of her more subtle sorcerers to gather information, and even went to see the girl herself once. She had to be sure that Drusilla wasn't using Tom, as the Ancient One has many enemies that would gladly use Tom's well-being against her. Of course, Drusilla and her family passed the check and aren't involved with Tom for some ulterior motive. I'm sorry it took so long. I actually had to use a favor I won in a bet to finally meet you as well. Drusilla says, trying to break the ice. I'm Drusilla Rosier, your son's fiancée. Even if it's so late in our relationship, it's nice to meet finally you. Chapter 171, Kicked Out. It's nice to finally meet you as well, Drusilla. Take a seat. Before anyone could move, Drusilla appeared in the seat opposite to the Ancient One. Druella has a shocked look on her face as she had no idea how she got in this seat. This is when she truly understood how powerful Tom's mother really is. "Would you like some tea?" the Ancient One asks, and once again before Druella could answer, a cup of tea appeared perfectly held in her hand. Meanwhile, Tom is still standing near the door, watching his mother toying with his fiancée. As the meeting between the two most important people in Tom's life was taking place, the Ancient One looked over at her son and gave him a look that said get lost. Seeing his mother wanted to be left alone with his already nervous fiancée, Tom merely shook his head at his mother, not wanting to leave Druella alone to deal with his shark of a mother. Walking over to the table, Tom summons a chair and sits beside Druella. He grasps her hand once again in order to calm her nerves. Feeling Tom beside her, holding her hand, Druella calms down after the Ancient One's shocking welcome. Seeing that Tom couldn't take the hint, the Ancient One decided to be a bit more blunt. "Tom, why don't you leave us alone so we can get to know each other? Go and practice your telekinesis or something." His mother tells him dismissively. "No, thanks. How could I miss the meeting of my two favorite women?" Tom says, playing it up like he wanted to be here. In fact, Tom wants to be anywhere but this location. He knows the Ancient One will try something, so he has to stay to make sure everything goes smoothly. If braving his mother's annoying and childish behavior for Druella's sake doesn't prove his love for her, Tom doesn't know what would. It's okay, Tom. You can go. I'll be fine," Druella says with a hint of nervousness in her voice. She knows that Tom's mother wants to speak with her alone. Sooner or later she would get what she wants, so Druella decided to get this over with as swiftly as possible. Hearing what Druella said, the Ancient One smirked evilly in Tom's direction. With this, he's outvoted 2-1. "You heard the girl. Now scram so us girls can talk in private," his mother says, shooing Tom away with her hand. Letting go of Tom's hand, Druella motions for him to leave as well. Not needing to be told twice, Tom took the chance to get the hell out of this situation. "All right, I'll be back in a bit," Tom says and gets up to leave the room. "If she goes overboard and you can't handle her anymore, send me a message through the mark and I'll come to rescue you," he tells Druella through the mark. When Tom was finally out of the room, the Ancient One stared at Druella unwaveringly for almost a full minute. The atmosphere became tense as both sides just stared at one another. "So, you plan on marrying my son?" the Ancient One says with an overbearing aura. Yes. While the Ancient One was having her fun intimidating her son's fiancée, Tom decided to pay a visit to Lady Death. He has needed to talk to her about Asgard for a while now, so this should be the best time to do it. Willing himself to be in Lady Death's presence, Tom appeared in the realm of death once again. This time he appeared in a large pitch-black hall. Lady Death was standing before a bunch of undead-looking soldiers kneeling beside her. "Hey, what are you up to?" Tom asks, drawing Lady Death and the undead attention. As soon as the undead sensed Tom's presence, they drew their weapons and rushed in his direction to slay the intruder. "Stand down," Lady Death calls out, stopping the undead soldiers in their tracks. "Huh, are those zombies?" Tom asks, not very scared of them at all. He's the master of death and an avatar after all. "Yes, master. I apologize for the disrespectful welcome," Lady Death says as she struts her way past the frozen undead soldiers. "Why do you have zombies in the first place?" Tom asks as he wonders why the all-powerful entity of death would need zombie soldiers. "I call them the Legion of the Doomed. They're the army of undead that guard my palace against any and all intruders. Every single one of them is an enemy that crossed my path through the years. After killing them, I turn them into nice, compliant little minions." Lady Death says with a charming smile on her face. I pity any idiot that has or will ever cross this scary woman. Tom thought as he inwardly celebrated getting her on his side. Just thinking of having an entity like Lady Death as an enemy sends chills down his spine. Can you send away the undead so we can talk? They're stinking up the place, Tom says as he gets another whiff of rotting flesh. Of course, Lady Death says and looks over at her servants. Get back to patrolling the palace. As the undead march out of the room, Tom waves his hand and uses magic to create a gust of wind, clearing the room of its rotting stench. I'm happy to see you again, Master. She greets seductively. What do you need to talk to me about? I have some questions about Asgard. Chapter 172 Questions. I have some questions about Asgard, Tom asked, piquing Lady Death's interest. What would you like to know about the fake gods? Lady Death asked, not sounding too pleased about the Asgardians. Of course Lady Death wouldn't be happy with Asgard due to her avatar's troubled upbringing and later imprisonment. I need to know a few things that could help me in the plan to break Hela out of hell, Tom reveals and gets an eager nod from Lady Death. First, would my new powers from the cloak of invisibility hide me from detection in Asgard? Yes and no. It depends on where you're going and what you're doing. If the area you're going to has protections placed by Odin or Frigga, then you would be found easily. You also wouldn't be able to hide from either of them as well. They will feel your presence instantly. Other than that, you would be invisible to everyone's senses, including Heimdall's all-seeing eyes. Lady Death explains. Well, that ruins my chances of going to steal from them. I don't want to risk Odin and Frigga having protections and finding me out, Tom says and gets an understanding nod from Lady Death. With your current power level, you could probably beat them in a fight. Although you are very inexperienced, so they would have the advantage, especially with your avatar and Master of Death powers being so new to you, she says, eyeing Tom up and down. I didn't know I was that strong, Tom says with a hand on his chin. Then again, I haven't had a chance to test my power in a fight while going all out yet. Well, if you ever want a sparring partner that can keep up with you, I wouldn't mind helping out. I would take it easy on you, of course. That way it wouldn't be a one-sided beatdown, she offers with a taunting smirk. All right, I get it. You're extremely powerful, Tom says, knowing that she's just flaunting her power level. I will take you up on your offer though, but I can't do it today. I have to be back soon. My mother is meeting my fiancé for the first time, and I need to be in top form in case something happens. Your fiancé is the same girl that you asked me to make immortal, correct? Lady Death asks, receiving a nod from Tom in return. Then nothing too bad will happen. At worst the Ancient One will merely maim and/or confine her. The Ancient One shrugs as if Tom's fiancé getting maimed wasn't a big deal at all. Tom just looks at her as if she were the dumbest person in the room. Then he remembers that Lady Death isn't a very normal person, so why should her point of view be normal either? Well, I still want to be available just in case, Tom says, getting an uncaring shrug from Lady Death. Is there anything else you wish to ask? She asks. 2 things actually, Tom says as he holds up a single finger. First, do you have any books on Asgardian magic? I need to learn it in order to get Hela out of her prison. I'm sorry, Master. Lady Death shakes her head from side to side. I've never had a need for such things, so I never thought of collecting books like that. Also, things like that are in the mortal plane, which makes it hard for me to acquire. It seems that every avenue is being closed and the only one remaining is to simply ask Odin and Frigga if he can be taught in Asgard, which is unlikely to be allowed, but he'll cross his finger and try nonetheless. Although, Tom has one more idea. Okay, last question. I tried to summon a dead Asgardian to learn from them, but I didn't know any names to do so. I looked up names from Norse mythology, like Bor, who is Odin's father, but nothing would happen every time I tried to summon them. Am I just getting their names wrong, or is it not possible to summon dead Asgardians? Tom asked, wondering why his spirit summoning wasn't working properly. /N. Thanks to whoever it was that gave me this idea on Patreon. I forget your name 'cause it's been a few days, but this was your idea. As Lady Death heard this question, she started pouting and crossed her arms. The atmosphere became complicated as she looked truly disgruntled about something. What's wrong? Tom asks. You can't summon dead Asgardians. She grounds that out with her teeth clenched tightly. Why? Tom asked, not surprised in the least. He thought that was the problem but wasn't completely sure, as the only other possibility is that he had the names wrong. I made a deal with the first Asgardian king that he and his people would have their own afterlife called Valhalla. I promised to not interfere with their afterlife, so that means neither can you. I'm sorry, Master, but I always keep my word no matter what. Death explains, angry at herself for doing something so stupid. It's all right, don't worry about it. That just means it's going to be a bit harder to break Hela out of hell. Although it will be harder, that doesn't mean I can't get it done. Tom says reassuringly. After speaking with Lady Death for a little longer, Tom leaves to make sure his fiancée and his mother haven't torn each other apart. When he arrived at Camartage and opened the door to where he left both of them, Tom saw something he truly didn't expect to walk in on. Both Druella and the Ancient One were sitting across from one another drinking tea and laughing. They looked like two friends that have been together for years. What happened while I was gone? This marks the end of part 25 of the story, I'm Voldemort. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe the video to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.